All right, so looks like we are live once again, and I'm trying a slightly different approach this time by actually using my tripod instead of having the iPad set up on my iPad case, because that generally worked okay, but created a situation where I was looking down at the camera because I had the first gen of the case and it was kind of poorly designed. However, this is creating another slightly awkward angle, and the thing is much further away, so we'll see how this goes and if this actually works. So I will partially be ranting for a while because I'm just kind of in that mood, and I have not done that in a while, and typically people enjoy that from time to time. And then I'll be sharing actually some practical solutions and just tangible nitty-gritty things that we can actually do. The reason being that it's really easy to get ungrounded, really easy to become consumed and distracted by things that just generally do not matter and do not have any real tangible substance or value to them as it relates to your actual quality of life or your actual experience as a human being. And quality of life, I think, is a very important thing, and it's something which it's easily confused with material goods or material wealth and success. But in reality, I don't believe that past a certain point that's really true. For example, sometimes once you have material wealth past a certain point, it actually becomes more of a burden and more of an obligation. Like, you pay more money to be inconvenienced more, for example. So that is definitely not what I'm talking about, because there's plenty of people that have money. They have every area of their life sort of like taken care of, but they're still freaking miserable because they don't have any quality of life or have any real connection to anything like actually tangible in their life. So what is actually real is how you eat, how you feed yourself, as simple as the actual food you eat, but also your attitude around that, your emotional compulsions and addictions around that, and then the actual state you are in when you are eating. Because a lot of people, will eat healthy food, but while they're eating, they're just scrolling through their phone or watching something, or they're in a state that is really incorrect for digestion and really incorrect for consuming food. So they pretty much just negated whatever benefit or value that food probably would have given them, even though it's, quote, healthy. A lot of these health bloggers and Instagrammers and whatever, their whole life is just showing other people the healthy things they do, but in reality, that behavior itself is extremely unhealthy and is putting their body into a physiological state and a chemical state that would prevent their body from even benefiting from the allegedly healthy things that they're doing. So there's a deep irony in that whole thing. And I just realized the lighting in this is pretty terrible, but the lighting in this room just sucks, so we're gonna have to just bear with it. How you actually feed yourself is real and is tangible. How you sleep is something that is real and has a tangible value. How you move your body, how you breathe, how you relate to people, how you relate to yourself, how you communicate with yourself internally, and the degree to which you are actually aware of that process. And then how you earn your money, how you spend your money. These are all tangible, real things that can actually have a tangible, real effect and real benefit or detriment on your life, which is obvious, of course, yet it is for that reason very often overlooked, and people are just consumed with illegitimate nonsense via TV and music and movies and entertainment of all shapes and sizes, social media, YouTube, all these things. It's really easy to get caught up in, and you can easily, through those things, get yourself into a state that has, or things that actually have an impact, or things that actually will probably lead to the outcome that you think you say you want. Meaning people are sitting on their keyboards or their phones having just, virtue signaling and taking this moral high ground and feeling superior to other people and judging other people and putting other people down and talking about how the world should be and how things ought to be and praising this and that and all these things. But like they're ineffective, impotent, and inefficient at their own basic life skills, at their own basic tangible ways of how in which they relate to the world. So they're living in what I call kind of an artificial flavor type of reality, where a good example of this is someone who goes to, let's say, a liberal arts college or even just a regular college now, and they take some communication class or some like conflict management seminar. So they learn the script to say that is allegedly makes people feel heard or understood or can diffuse a situation or signals empathy. But the thing they don't realize is that using the verbal script that signals empathy is not the same thing as actually having empathy. Using the verbal script of this should statistically make this person feel heard is not the same thing as actually listening and actually hearing. So that is a massive difference. So if they are consumed in believing the delusion that the verbal script is equivalent to having the actual tangible substance, this is why I use the phrase artificial flavor, because it's like people saying aspartame or McDonald's or all these fake foods are actually foods, when in reality they are chemical representations that are allegedly supposed to represent and trick you into thinking that it is actually the real thing, which works if you're stupid or a child or unhealthy or in a psychotic state, then sure. But if you're not in that state, then you quickly realize like this is not actually the thing. And if you're talking to someone who's been homogenized and brainwashed into, let's say, some of those scripts, you very quickly realize they don't have empathy. They're not actually listening. They're not actually present. They're just repeating the scripts they learned from their liberal indoctrination at their whatever school. So this is bringing me back to the things that we are talking about, which is things that are actually tangible, actually have an impact, and are actually where your ideals and your philosophies and your beliefs and your basically a self-absorbed, narcissistic, ridiculous worldview that quite a lot of us live in, because this is kind of the norm. That's where that actually, the rubber of that actually hits the road. And very, very rarely are people actually willing to put their bias and their prejudice and their worldview to that litmus test and actually be willing to put it through the ringer and see if it actually holds up under real world circumstances and examples. Meaning, sitting around and complaining online or going to a social event and holding up a sign is very different than analyzing a problem, studying a problem, arriving at a solution, and then developing a solution from that understanding, putting that solution to work in the real world, and then actually doing something that really actually matters. A good example of this is basically how this Greta whatever person just won Person of the Year or something from Time magazine, but she actually isn't doing anything or contributing anything other than validating people's pre-existing biases and prejudices. Whereas there's the Ocean Cleanup Project that is also run by a young person that is actually doing something and actually saw a problem, developed a solution, and is working on that real solution in the world and actually producing real tangible results from those solutions and insights. But people have generally not heard of this person, and it's not really covered on the news because it's actually real and actually doing something and actually like a benefit. So it's just something to actually consider and keep in mind. because it is very easy to get consumed and carried away and usurped with these irrelevant and completely nonsensical paradigms through the medium of whatever, media, the internet, social media, etc. So basically how we sleep, how we move, how we breathe, how we eat, how we relate to other people, how we relate to ourselves, how we make money, how we spend money. All of these things are where the rubber actually hits the road, and where our ideas of things, our ideas of ourself, are actually put to the test. And to the degree that those things actually match up, to me that is actually like should be normal. But I think rarely is that the case for most people, because they would much rather complain or blame other people than say, well, I guess I have to like put in the work and do this A, B, and C. Otherwise, I just kind of have to shut up. Like, but that's not really the world we live in, because everyone thinks that their opinion is valid because they have it, or whatever other nonsense. So yeah, and I talk to a lot of people who, in their mind, they're spiritually advanced, or they've attained high states, or they have this deep, profound insight, or they have some really exaggerated idea of themselves, but they are still inept, impotent, inefficient, and ineffective at navigating these basic life skills in these ways in which those internal things would express themselves. Meaning, if you had those profound levels of insight, those profound spiritual whatever, or those abilities and gifts and etc. and skills, then you would become more effective at all of those basic life skills, and you would become more effective at pretty much whatever you chose to do. But actually the opposite is pretty much the norm, where people are like, the more spiritual and advanced I get, somehow the less effective and able to deal with life I become, which is not true. It's the opposite. It's the complete wrong way. So people want to talk about grandiose, large-scale ideas, but at the end of the day, they're still completely unable to navigate these basic things. Then there's still quite a lot of work to be done. So yeah, I've talked about each of those things in other videos many times, and I'm happy to do it more again, but I kind of just want to chime in on some of the chats that have been going on, which kind of illustrating exactly what the hell I'm talking about. This person talking about, oh my God, is it possible to have an allergy to caffeine or green tea? Could it cause inflammation instead of prevent it? I just had 4 tablespoons of green tea brewed for 10 minutes. Well, let's not blame green tea. Let's acknowledge that the issue is whatever the hell you just did, which is 4 tablespoons, way too much, brewing for 10 minutes, way too long. So that's completely incorrect and from every angle, not to mention it was probably low quality tea. So let's not blame green tea. Let's look at the actual issue was, I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing whatever that is, but that's the problem. That's not how green tea is supposed to be used. It's not how it's supposed to be brewed. So of course you're going to get problems. So why are you trying to blame green tea and give green tea a bad name for your own poor decisions? I don't really understand what the fuck they're talking about. But this is kind of like, this is, what's wrong with brewing it for 10 minutes? Doesn't it make it stronger? That's not the point. Like, why would you want it to be stronger? Like, that makes literally no sense. And it's inherently disrespectful to tea. And it's not, yeah, it just, like, what are you talking about? It's like I drank 3 gallons of water today, but like I peed a lot and now I almost died. But I thought 3 gallons of water would be better than, because water is like good. Like, I thought if I drank 3 gallons of water, because I'm like 70% water, and like the earth is like mostly water, and like I'm hydrated, I'm supposed to be like hydrated all the time. So I thought if I drank 3 gallons, that should be better, right? I mean, like, so I don't get it. And then, oh, I drank all that water and now I feel bad and I have health problems. Man, water's not that good. Something's wrong with water. You know, something about water doesn't resonate with me. I don't know, it's because of if I'm like a Capricorn or something. You know, like maybe already too much water in my sign. Like maybe that I drink too much water. It's just like too much water for me. Like, I don't really know. So I'm gonna like consult a shaman about it. I don't know. Like, what are people talking about? It's like, oh, I heard cheeseburgers were good, so I ate 12, but now I don't feel that good. Cheeseburgers must not be healthy. Like, I already ate 12, I don't know, like, what the hell, man? That is epic. Yeah, that shit's funny. You're supposed to snort matcha, right? Yeah. Like, I just don't understand. Like, what? I remember one time someone wrote me and was like, "Hey, I think Makuna is not very good, or like maybe your Makuna isn't very good." And I'm like, "Please tell me more." What? I just took like 3 tablespoons and I just didn't feel very good, and it kind of hurt my stomach. I had to go to the bathroom a lot afterwards. I'm like, well, the dosage is a 1/4 teaspoon, but I could see how it says a 1/4 teaspoon and you got 3 tablespoons. I could see how you can make that leap, and somehow that's my fault. And indicative of some qualitative aspect of the product. Has nothing to do with the fact that you made a really bad decision. But this is actually a really good example because it's a perfect example of everything that I was talking about previously. So thank you for exhibiting the exact behavior in which I was trying to illustrate through a lot of metaphor and story, which is not taking responsibility for your own actions, not reflecting on the perhaps poor information that you were making decisions on, not reflecting on the fact that your decision was poor, not taking responsibility for the fact that you made the decision. Instead, tea's bad. That's just all there is to it. Like, wow. Okay. Let's see. What are you brewing? I'm brewing like what is left of an 80 shung that I have been brewing for a while. It is really a fantastic tea, actually. I thought about selling it once, but my cost on it, just at wholesale at cost, is $400 per cake. So I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a little bit tricky to sell. That and the cake is really tightly compressed, so it'd be a real pain in the ass to break up. But it has like 6 layers of flavor. The mouthfeel is solid. The effects are solid. It's a really award-winning tea. But it's pretty much washing out at this point because I've already brewed it probably 12 times or something. How do you help someone who feels lost and doesn't know where to start? Well, I think I have made videos about this in the past for sure. One of them I think was like positive thinking for people that are pessimistic. That's a good one. Because I think basically being pessimistic and negative is a lot easier than being positive. And I actually think being positive is kind of stupid, and oftentimes just makes people into useful idiots. And it's just also an unrealistic sort of fascist worldview. Like, you should be happy. You should be positive. These are the only acceptable behaviors you are allowed to express. Give me a fucking break. Like, the surefire way to be miserable is to think that you should be happy. Granted, if you are genuinely miserable and genuinely unhappy, which I can wholeheartedly relate to because that was my recurrent mental state for 20 years or something. So I'm very familiar with how that feels and the degree of which you can feel lost. The other thing I will say is this whole thing about finding your purpose and your mission and your true calling and all these ideas that are popular, they are generally not true. They are massively exaggerated and overhyped, and they mostly make people feel like shit. Because like, well, this person on YouTube's living their dream and their passion, and they're telling me I should, but I don't. But it's like, yeah, but their dream and their passion is telling you to live your dream and your passion. And the fact that they're selling you how to live your dream is allowing them to live their dream of selling you on how to live your dream. So what are they really even doing other than capitalizing on people's insecurities and inadequacies and making money from it? Which is fine, but we have to kind of examine that situation. But I think what I would recommend is all the stuff that I was just mentioning earlier in the video about things that are actually tangible, things that actually matter, things that actually make a big difference in our life experience, and actually working with those things. And that can have a lot of benefits, have a lot of side effects throughout our life. And it's just one of those things when you start, if you want to start actually improving at one thing, developing the mindset and the skill set and the discipline to improve one thing will build those qualities that you can then use in other areas. So, and it's just coming back to those simple basic things and learning how to manage and navigate them effectively. Another thing is actually learning something and acquiring a skill, whether it's something painting or writing or an instrument to anything else, massage therapy or whatever. The simple act at not being good at something, going through that process and then trying to develop skill in something, I think is a really beneficial thing. And I generally have a hard time really hanging out with people who have not done that, because I think unless you've done that, there's a lot you don't understand. There's a lot you don't have the experience to speak on or have an opinion on, because unless you've actually done that, then it's just like the struggle sometimes is a worthy part of the process, and people want to skip it. They want guaranteed outcomes, or they want to say they want to be successful based on their entitlement, like, oh, I'm this race and this gender, so I deserve to be successful upon those merits, regardless of my skill, regardless of what I actually bring to the table or how trash of a person I actually am. So I think there's a lot to be said for actually going through that process, because in order to actually become good at something, you have to become comfortable at not being good at that thing, which means you have to actually be honest with yourself and take a real look in the mirror and see where you're actually at versus what you believe you should be or ought to be or hope to be or all these different things. I think that's a very useful thing to do, to become comfortable with losing, to be comfortable with not being good, to being comfortable with being critiqued and trying to constantly improve your skill in whatever that thing is. I think that's one of the more beneficial things that a person can do. I also look at it like, I feel like for a short period of time, everyone should have a job in the service industry. That should be part of our education, just so that they understand what it's like. So then they basically can appreciate what it's like to deal with someone on the other side. And people who have not ever worked in the service industry, I think, are missing out on some basic human skills or some basic levels of empathy and understanding. And I think just this is a similar example of acquiring skills or trying to become good at something is something that really, I think, is a worthwhile endeavor. And it changes the way you look at things to a large degree. So those are things I would recommend for people that feel lost or don't know where to start. Those are all good places to start. And it's just the fact of the matter of actually doing something and actually taking action and actually moving forward is in itself valuable. Even if it's as simple as cleaning your house, vacuuming, or cleaning your house on a more regular basis, or some basic life skill that is cultivating some degree of discipline, or something that you have that you constantly come back to and are trying to sort of improve and monitor and constantly develop over time. I think that is a beneficial thing. And I think chasing happiness will pretty much only lead to suffering because all emotional states are temporary. So no matter how happy you are, you're eventually going to be miserable again because that thing is going to decay or turn into something else. So it's kind of a losing script. To me, it's the equivalent of people that really like alcohol. To me, it's a pretty weak buzz. It's a pretty shitty intoxicant with a lot of side effects and a lot of nonsense that comes with it. So like the risk to reward doesn't add up. The return on the investment doesn't add up. The opportunity costs don't add up. Nothing about it seems profitable to me whatsoever. But for quite a lot of people, this is the paramount of their reward system and the peak experience that they strive for within their life is to be able to drink alcohol, which to me is like, okay, you're a functional alcoholic, okay, like, all right, I mean that's fair, you know, whatever floats your boat, I suppose. But personally, I find that to be a pretty low quality marker of happiness and success. It's like, look at me, I'm an adult, I can eat candy whenever I want. It's like, okay, but that's it. That's as high as you're gonna set the bar. This is the metric for your happiness and success for the next 50 years. I'm the asshole? Okay. So to me, in many ways, happiness and bliss and joy and all of those things are kind of similar to that. You can chase it, but it's pretty hollow at the end of the day, and will only dissolve and decay. And I'm not being like fucking existentialist or pessimistic or negative about it, because obviously it feels better to feel happy than it does to be miserable. I'm speaking more of the importance of neutrality and being less driven by your transitory emotional states. And because in many ways they are drugs that we become chemically dependent on and have a real negative effect on our endocrine system and our digestive system and our overall sense of self. But this is the currency that sort of the world runs on in a lot of ways. So I just think it's, there's more important things like purpose and meaning and skill, like achieving goals, doing things. Those are a bit more meaningful than I'm happy. That's my number one aim in life, is to be happy. I'm like, really? But this is kind of what people really think, so they get kind of caught up in the whole deeply liberal arts sort of psychotherapy, psychiatry type nonsense, which of course within that world there's stuff which is very much more tangible and action oriented and outcome oriented and much more functional. There's also people that I see that just become lifelong junkies, just riding that self-absorbed fucking narcissistic, just not like hanging out with people, being out around. It just is shocking at how everyone is like a therapist now, or everyone is a psychoanalyst. Everyone's just diagnosing, oh, they've got this issues, oh, they got this issues, oh, well, it makes sense based on that their parents were this way, and oh, it makes sense that they had this childhood experience, and then it makes sense they did this, and now they have this, and they're just unwilling to do this. I'm like, that's the world you want to live in? Like, mechanized and all separated out and all isolated and desolate? Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I lost that one. So anyways, long story short, acquire some skill, do some things, and don't be so afraid to fail or make a mistake. Because one of the more important things I think people can learn is just how self-absorbed, small-minded, and completely out to lunch most people are. Like once you actually realize that, I think it really lowers your fear and your self-consciousness, because all the shit you're worrying about, all the shit you think people will say or judge you and all this, 9 times out of 10, they have no clue. They're not going to notice at all because they're so consumed with their own emotional addictions and mental fixations and biases and prejudice and just self-absorbed nonsense. And they're not even going to notice what you're up to or what you're doing or not doing. Like, it's a shocking experiment to realize how little you can actually say to people, how sometimes you can be talking to them and just stop mid-sentence and they like don't miss a beat. They don't even notice that you just stopped your thought mid-sentence. They're already like responding to something else or doing something else. Or you can just start talking complete nonsense. Like your sentence can go here and all of a sudden you just take it another direction. They don't even blink. Like those are just things to play around with and experiment with. Like in some ways, reality and our experience is a lot more malleable than we probably realize. And there's a lot more room to just experiment and have fun and observe and learn than people probably give themselves credit and space for. Which leads me to my next point, which is this whole phenomena of gaslighting, which is very much a buzzword from the very gaslighting industry of liberal arts and the humanities and that whole thing, which obviously just exists to gaslight a bunch of people, but we'll just use their term of gaslighting. But basically people think this is some large thing that people are doing to other people, which of course it is. But the big thing that is missed is that people are doing it to themselves willingly all the time, gaslighting their own reality, their own experience, their own sense of self, and end up being kind of shells of a person and kind of like a conglomerate and amalgamation of buzzwords and slogans and catchphrases and ideological isms and dogmas and pop phrases, TV references, movie references. Like there's just quite a lot of people that I'm like, oh, if I just hang with them and my vocabulary consists of TV and movie references, then we're good. Like we're gonna get along great and have a great time. But if I'm out of touch with pop culture and I can't hit those references, then we got nothing. It's like if you can just show up, drink alcohol, and talk about sports and quote movie quotes and funny movie scenes, then you're pretty much good. And that's going to be as far as it's going to go. And everyone's going to have a great time. And their great time wasn't based on any real sense of camaraderie or connection or, it's just based on like, oh, this situation validated my pre-existing beliefs and my basic brainwashing cultural program that I've been given through all this media environment that I live in. This person reflected it back to me, which triggered my reward system to kick on because I am also taking alcohol and maybe some sugar, some like rich greasy foods. So my fucking reward system's like just firing off. But it's like, that's what you're living for? Like, what's the definition of a drug addict again? Like, can we re-examine that definition? But basically, people are just gaslighting their own experience because of what they perceive as duty and obligation, or what they ought to do, or what other people will say to them. And basically what their actual experience is versus what their takeaway and their extrapolations and meaning attached to that actual experience oftentimes do not resemble each other at all. Part of the thing is like, there's this sort of metaphysical idea or this deeper spiritual idea that, life has meaning and life is here to teach us lessons, and everything happens for a reason and everything matters and it's all part of God's plan, and there's a lesson to be learned in everything. Well, that's not actually the teaching. That's not actually what was classically taught or passed down. This is just what people already were conditioned to, so they looked back at these words and then said, oh, that's what they meant. Well, it's like, well, no, that's just what you assumed and what you're conditioned with. The thing is the meaning, the purpose, the lesson is in many ways a choice that is up to us. A conclusion that we can arrive at or not, meaning that we can give to it or not, purpose we give to it or not. Because ultimately life has no real meaning or purpose. Like, that is kind of obvious, because it's just like the fact that this cup is empty means that it's useful. I can put anything in it because it's empty. So in a similar way, many things in life don't really have any meaning or value or purpose other than what we give to it. Which, the fact that it doesn't have those things gives us the freedom and the choice to put those things on it. But you have people that are generally depressed people who say, oh, that's such a downer. That's such an empty worldview. It's so dark. Like, well, no, that's just you. That's you projecting that onto that understanding. Because actually it's really freeing and liberating, and a bit of a relief, and a bit empowering and a bit inspiring to me anyways. But so yeah, it just goes back to the artificial flavor type reality that oftentimes people are living in. And basically people are quick to point the finger externally, politically, socially, but very slow to actually turn that same lens of critique upon the things that occur in their own mind and the way in which they relate to themselves, which is often far worse than anyone has treated them, like to a really shocking degree. And the fact of the matter is people think it would be easier and more effective and like more necessary to perhaps exist in that state of schism or that state of delusion, when in actuality it requires a lot more time and energy and effort to uphold that whole thing, which has a real negative effect on our health, on our physiology. So yeah. Let me see, it looks like there's a question. What do you think about vegetarianism versus eating meat? I think that's a personal decision that each person can make based on their own moral framework and their dietary and physiological needs. That's what I think about it. I've done veganism and vegetarianism and raw foodism. I've done various forms of these types of diets for many years. I understand what they do, to me anyways. And I observe and look at people who take those diets as well. So I think that's a real personal decision that people should make for themselves based on their moral framework and their health and lifestyle goals. So that's what I think about it. So I'm also going to answer, well, obviously I am answering questions, but if people actually have questions, part of this Q&A or this live stream is answering questions, not just me inherently rambling all the time. What do you think of yerba mate? I find it a little bit underwhelming, to be honest, but I also never really got into it. So yeah, I never feel the need for like, oh, I need energy. I need to drink something for energy. If I ever drink coffee, it's because I like the flavor and it's tasty. Like lattes are tasty. So that's why I drink it. I'm not like, oh, I need the energy. I gotta get amped. I gotta get some work done. Really, rarely, never feel that. And then tea I drink because I'm into tea, not because I'm like care about the caffeine. Honestly, if tea or coffee hits me with a strong stimulation effect, something's wrong with it, typically. I think a lot of times what people associate with a caffeine rush is actually an allergic reaction or an inflammatory response. Or like, for example, if I go to certain coffee shops, which I don't go to anymore because of what I'm about to say, I'll drink their latte and it tastes like smoky and burnt and like whatever. And then I feel pretty awful afterwards. Where other coffee spots I'd go to would be very smooth, very buttery, very mild, and then the vibe after that is reflective of those inherent qualities. The same thing with tea. If I'm feeling like a stimulation or a hit from any type of tea, I'm just like, this tea is trash, I'm gonna throw it out. Let's see. Do you still drink tea and use agarwood? Yeah, pretty much all day, every day. Agarwood and then tea usually every day as well. Would you ever do / have you ever done an ayahuasca retreat? I would never do an ayahuasca retreat, and I fortunately have never done one. I missed the boat on that trend, and I'm very glad I did. I don't really recommend it. I think it's not a good scene, and does typically very negative things and turns people into very unhealthy, imbalanced, useful idiots. So I'm not a fan nor a proponent of such plant medicines. Is too much faux tea bad? 100% absolutely yes. Too much of any herb is bad because it's too much, but especially faux tea because it can be hard on people's digestion if they have pre-existing issues. So I would not do that. I would stick to reasonable dosage recommendations. You once mentioned that you would probably never go barefoot again, and I would like to know why you said that. Maybe I heard you wrong though. No, I did actually say that because I stopped doing that and I got rid of all my grounding stuff, like my grounding sheet. This is because basically when people touch the earth because they're trying to discharge energy from their body. I do not wish to discharge energy from my body, so I do not contact the earth with my bare feet because I don't wish to discharge energy from my body. I mean, simple sort of cause and effect type thing. But I would say for basically everyone else, it's a good thing and they should do it. And it's probably beneficial for their health, as all the proponents claim. Just for me, that's where I'm at and what I do and don't do based on those things. And let's see. What do you think of flat earthers? I think it's, well, for a while I thought it was kind of an entertaining meme, but now it's like kind of took a whole different direction. So I think it's kind of dumb and pointless and a waste of time and energy. And I don't see really any point or value in it, whether it's true or false. I really don't care. It has no value. It has no impact or value on my life in any way, shape, or form. And I just don't care. I really don't have time, and I have a lot more important things to do. Like if I have a block of time, okay, I have maybe 10 things I could do. Flat earth and shit like that is not gonna trump the other things that I need to do. Could you do any more Qigong videos? I guess that means it would depend on what you mean by Qigong videos. I guess In terms of theory, the theory is quite vast and deep, and I could do fucking tons of videos on that. But I just don't, because the way that stuff works is information is relevant when you're at the right stage for it to be relevant. If you're not at that stage, then it's not really relevant. And the way it works too is sometimes the information is contradictory. So if you're here, but you're getting information from here, it contradicts what you actually need and what would actually get you from A to B. Because if you get the information from here, but you're here, it will never get you to here. It will keep you stuck here or take you backwards. So that's why information and study in that to a certain point is irrelevant and in many cases not helpful, because it's all about the right information at the right time based on exactly what you're working with. Which, to be quite frank, what the vast majority of people are working with is straight up delusion or like energy. Like, so there's no point to be like, here's more on top of that. But if people have like actual specific questions, then that's easier to answer, because I can understand where they're at and what they're working on and then give the right answer based on those things that would actually help them in that moment, versus just some generic vague nonsense that would probably not help them, which is what everyone else is doing. Hence they speak in buzzwords and slang and lingo and metaphysical whatever, because it's irrelevant, meaningless nonsense. When in actual reality, it's much more mathematical and precise. But I absolutely can do those types of videos in the future. I just like have to kind of start, get a different direction. Maybe I can do another Udemy one, like a more theoretical, precise one. Because to be honest, my previous Udemy courses were completely unscripted. Like, the video that people see on the website is exactly what I filmed in one take in one day. Basically, over the course of whatever that is, 3 hours, I filmed everything, and that was it. I just said, I'm going to do this course today, so I did it, and that was it. That was like the end of the thing. So perhaps in the future I could be much more detailed and specific and map everything out a bit more, because, yeah. The other thing too is I don't recommend Qigong or internal arts to anyone, really. I don't think it's a really valid use of time. I think there's far better ways to spend your time. I think there's far more effective ways, there's far better ways at trying to become healthier than Qigong. I think it's one of the biggest wastes of time that people are doing. See people at the park doing their Tai Chi or whatever, I'm just like, it's a waste of time, guys. Like, you're just straight up in fantasy land over here, because I'm looking at you and there's no Tai Chi in any of your Tai Chi, but whatever. Okay, I'm going to scroll back up and find the questions. Why not wish to discharge, wish to build up energy? Long story short, just doing certain practices in a certain phase where, building energy. And it's not even actually energy in the way people think, but we can just use that word. But in the sense of just building chi and filling channels. So connecting with the earth is obviously going to discharge that to a degree, so I don't really care. And actually this whole thing in Qigong about like being in nature and absorbing the chi from the universe, that's completely made up and is not actually real and doesn't really, it's not true, it doesn't happen. And it only happens at extremely advanced late stages. It's not something that really has much of an impact on people. And 9 times out of 10, they're actually just making themselves sick by practicing outside, because they're trying to do this thing that's opening up their system and their pores, but the environment's full of pathogenic information, so they're just opening themselves up to pathogens and putting themselves in this very passive state. So they're just making themselves sicker, weaker, less energized, and etc. So it doesn't add up, let's just say. It doesn't really make any sense at all, but hey, let's keep the fantasy going. Do you believe we are living in a simulation? No, but I think quite a lot of people are living in a fantasy. That's for sure. Like we all are living in our own subjective fantasy. But this whole thing about we're living in a simulation, it's a simulated universe, and blah blah. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. Like, this is considered modern and advanced, or some like high philosophical theory. I mean, see, to me, it's the intellectual equivalent of picking your nose and being like, "Whoa, profound." I used my digits to dig this from my nose and flick it across the room. Wow, are we living in a simulation? It's like, did we descend from apes? Did God create the universe? Is it intelligent design, or is it all just pure chaos? This week on trivial, pathetic theories, passed off as advanced. Hi, what do you think about the whole carnivore movement that is starting to get momentum now? I'm not familiar with it, and I don't really know much about it, but if that's what people are into, cool. It's just another example of people getting obsessed with extremes. They can't find any middle ground or actually identify the correct causal relationship, so they have to go to an extreme, like just they take the shotgun or like nuclear bomb approach, being like, well, I don't know, let's just fucking nuke it. It's like it'll kill everything, which is better than not killing anything. So I'll just do that because at least everything will be gone. So we'll have accomplished something. So that's like, let's just eat only meat. Okay, I mean, sure. Humans can survive on a lot of things. So really not too surprised. But to me, I just think it's a little bit extreme. But you know, whatever. Being a tiny speck on a rock in space makes people feel small. We are capable of so much, but not taught it. Instead, most people are held back. I would say the belief that the shape of the earth holds you back from doing something in your life is probably the problem. Like, why would science make you feel held back, like, in your life? That's a personal decision. Never been like, you know what I should go on YouTube and make this video. I can't though, because the Big Bang happened, and like now I'm just like a speck on this planet, on this like rock hurtling through space. I shouldn't make this video then. I should just sit here then. I mean, what? Like that attitude and the desire to blame other people and blame them for controlling you is the problem, not whatever perceived disempowerment is a person willingly disempowering themselves. That is the problem, because honestly, no one gives a shit. The powers that be don't give a shit if you believe whatever the earth is. And if there was a conspiracy, I think they would be more happy for you to believe in the more crazy ones, the better, because it just makes you less and less empowered, and people are going to take you less and less seriously and categorize you more into, oh, it's just one of those crazy, incoherent lunatics believing in absurd nonsense. So it's a win for them either way, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But that's my personal opinion. So feel free to disregard it. But maybe I'm a globetard. You never know. Why do you feel like you should answer questions? I don't know. I mean, honestly, a lot of questions I do ignore if I don't want to answer them. But if it's a reasonable question, I have a reasonable answer, then I'll just fucking answer it. Are you wearing oud right now? I'm actually wearing a perfume right now, which is this. Got it from The Perfumist, and it's called Arg, A-R-G, which translates to the scent of the breeze or something. It was like a special limited run perfume that they did. It has a 24 karat gold specks in it, which I think you can see. Yeah, you can see the gold right there. That's gold. gold specks, man, in the oil. Pretty cool. To be honest, been wearing it for some hours now. It's a little too feminine for my taste, a little too floral and like old lady for me, really. I mean, I can tell it's kind of good, I guess. But yeah, a little too perfumey and like floral and like someone's grandma. I'm not really getting the other things yet, but I also will give it more time and, see how it goes. Let's see. Is Makuna in stock? 100%. It is definitely in stock. Let me see. Asking again, wasn't sure if you were avoiding the question intentionally. What media have you found most impactful with bringing awareness? Film, video games, books? I don't know if I can answer that in this moment because I'm not particularly into anything at the moment. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff over the years, but I will be totally honest, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, the amount of media that I've consumed has been quite small. So I can't really think of anything at the moment. I apologize, but I've probably covered it in other videos and made other type of recommendations for things. So sorry, I can't answer that. It's a little too big for me to tackle in this moment. I always feel better out in the forest, but I just walk around and enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. And a lot of that is personal preference. Some people hate being in the forest. They find it really uncomfortable and really scary, so they feel terrible. They love being in the city surrounded by concrete, so it's their personal preference. But yeah, personally, I enjoy walking in the woods and being outside as well because I like fresh air. I find it personally a bit better, but I'm not like some nature worshiping creep about it or have some like super idealistic fantasies where I want to have sex with a tree. It's like clean air is good. Walking around is good to do. Moving your body is good. Like, it's nice to have a view, etc. It's just a personal thing, but I also have my shoes on, etc. So, what do you think about gluten? I think I usually try to avoid it for the most part. But the thing is, I don't like bread. I don't like baked goods. I don't really eat floury type things. So I just don't really care for those things. They don't really make me feel very good. I find them to be a bit annoying on my blood sugar and how I feel. So I don't really go for it. So I don't know if it is legitimately people are allergic to the gluten or if they're allergic to the wheat, or there's some theories that they're actually allergic to the certain pesticide, which I think might be Roundup, that is used on all the wheat in America. Whereas people that are gluten intolerant here can go to Europe or other countries, eat the wheat there and have no issue. So something to consider. But I just think, at least probably for a lot of people, a lot of grain and those types of foods is probably quite inflammatory over the long term. But that's just my opinion and something people would have to observe and test in their own experience. Have you seen anything that someone does eating raw meat and his raw meat philosophy? No, I don't really pay attention. I don't care. I don't have any interest. So no, I have not seen that. I don't really pay attention to any dietary zealots or dietary messiahs, so to speak. I think it's kind of like a bit boring, to be totally honest. It's very uninteresting. Yeah. Let's see. I think my tea is officially washed out. So, some pretty decent questions so far. What kind of oral care products do you use? Basically, as of late, I'm using Uncle Harry's, I think it's called. Basically, the tooth powder, the remineralizer, and occasionally the whitening powder. Their stuff's pretty good. I find the mint to be honestly overbearing and offensive. My taste buds and the quality of my taste has definitely degraded to a certain degree from using those products. But okay, it's a fine trade-off, I guess. But other than that, they're pretty good. I'm tempted to just make my own tooth powder and remineralization powder, and leave out the like overkill of the mint, so I'm not completely nuking my taste buds every time I use it, because I think it's a little bit beside the point and not that necessary. So yeah, that's what I'm using. Uncle Harry's, I think that's what it's called. Pretty easy to find online. It's not expensive. You can get it at pretty much any health food store. It's pretty straightforward. What type of shampoo and soap? The soap is like whatever local organic thing that I found at the local health food store. I don't remember the brand. I think it's like a chamomile and tea tree or something. Some kind of soap like that. Shampoo also some local organic thing that I don't really remember. So that's that. Let's see. I've got probably like 10 or more different perfumes and aromas all around me. So sometimes I'll just pull one out and give it a hit. Do you do any sport? Running, walking. That's the extent at this point. Otherwise, no sport for me. Don't really have that much time or inclination to do such things. So yeah, let's see if there's any other questions, or may have to wrap it up soon. Let's see. One thing I will say though is if you have not checked out the new products on the Hyperion website, the Agar 35 and the Semda, highly recommend checking those out for any type of anxiety or depression or mental emotional stuff that's going on, or just to help improve sleep, help improve focus and concentration and mental clarity. These formulas are second to none, unparalleled, like life-changing formulas. So I really can't say enough about them. Highly, highly recommend it. And also the sandalwood oil that I have on the website, which I realized just now I have not posted the picture yet. I really recommend getting this sandalwood oil. It's the smell, even the smell from the bottle is quite good. But even just like a couple swipes on the skin will last for a really, really, really long time. You can also put it on your clothes, put it behind your ears, put it in your beard or on your face if you have a beard or face. The smell will last for a day, sometimes longer. Do you have ant extract? Yes, ant extract is in stock. What products were for sleeping and anxiety? I was mentioning the Agar 35 and Semda, two new formulas that I posted to the website last week. If you go to the website, you'll see it on the homepage, or if you go to the new products, new releases section, you'll see them on there. I honestly sold quite a lot of the Agar 35 in the first few weeks. Had difficulty keeping it in stock. and actually cleaned my supplier out too. They had to re-up themselves. But it's an amazing formula. The reviews have been solid. I really can't recommend it enough. So yeah, those are both really go together. I think valerian is not very good. Silmarian and milk thistle also, personally, don't find them to be that effective or useful. These formulas destroy those other single herbs in terms of efficacy, ease of use, every manageable or measurable, quantifiable metric. It is superior. Any CBD products? No CBD products. Definitely, I got out of that business because a few reasons. Basically, the credit card processors were treating me like I was a criminal from the very start. They were just very shitty to deal with, gave me terrible rates. And then the first one I had just dropped me for no reason. They were just like, yeah, we just decided to not do CBD anymore, so see ya. And I was like, okay, thanks for the heads up. Second company was worse to deal with and kept a lot of my money, and then kept probably 20% or so of my sales. They kept it for like 8 months, 9 months. They just kept the money. I was like, oh, it's fine. I know I started a business to make money, but you can just keep the money. I don't need it. I don't really need it. It's just, it's like, it was just absurd. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being treated like a criminal and being just thrown around and screwed over. So I'm just done with this business. Plus, the business itself is kind of gross and scammy, and a lot of douchebags are in that industry now. People that used to sell beer and tobacco are now like, oh, I'm all about CBD. It's the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, 2 weeks ago you were selling beer. Now you're a CBD enthusiast, right? Okay, you don't care about people or whatever. You're just trying to jump on this bandwagon because you got VC money. The other thing is that it may eventually be illegal again, or at least reclassified based on the FDA guidelines, because they have legit pharmaceuticals that are CBD. So you can't, at least under the law, have like pharmaceuticals readily and easily available. So I don't know. I think the CBD can be good for people's health, and I enjoyed it when I took it. I had a great source for it. I just really can't be bothered to participate in such a hyped, watered down, homogenized, annoying industry, frankly speaking. And there's so many companies and brands, and everyone's got the best. We've got the nanoparticulated, a chemical essence, spiritualized, higher vibration. It's like, okay, wow, cool. Every company's got it. Nice. I just really have no appetite to live that way or exist in a business way in that manner. So yeah, that's why I kind of get out of it and don't really bother myself with it. Do you have anything for stiff shoulder, stiff neck, clicking in the head neck? I would say, yeah, body work and mobility exercises, and probably addressing physiological and structural imbalances, addressing imbalances and disruptions in your gait cycle, in how you stand, how you sit, because those are all contributing to that. The technical term is ouch, I think. But it's not something I could simply say, oh, do this stretch, it'll completely fix your neck. That's not really that simple. It's a little more complicated than that. So those things that I listed are what I would explore. Yeah. Do you know about Now Alchemy CD products? What's your take compared to just what you suggested for the anxiety, etc.? I do use a CBD and it does help. I mean, if it helps, that's cool, but I think those formulas, in my personal experience, are massively superior. Based on my experience, all of the experience of my friends, and all of the feedback that I've gotten from my clients, and all of the feedback my supplier has given me, plus, the experience of the high-level practitioners that make the products. To me, it wouldn't be a comparison or even a apples-to-apples type thing. Plus value for money, there's no comparison. But again, that's just my opinion, and my opinion based on my experience of these things. So if it were me and I had to make the decision, I would obviously choose those herbal formulas personally. Yeah, and I've also tried all those products from that company, and they're fine. Just really not my cup of tea, as they say. Let's see. I think someone said, are you going to have any more tea or herbs tonight? Probably no more tea, but definitely water, and I will probably take some Simda and some Agar 35 later. Yeah, that'll be probably the extent of my herbal consumption. But I'll probably be jumping off here to get some dinner soon, actually, before it gets too late. That way I can go to bed early, since it gets dark now at like 4 p.m. All right. Any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to be wrapping it up soon. The 21 gram theory suggests we have a soul. Do you think we are souls having a human experience? Well, I can say according to Eastern traditions, let's just say Buddhism or Taoism, the idea with them is that if you believe you have a soul, then you're already lost, and there's not much hope for development. So I kind of agree with that. And I think our understanding culturally and scientifically of this concept is pathetic, to put it politely. So I don't really put any weight or value in it. I think it's very unrefined and very just hardly even worth mentioning personally. That's why I never think about it or talk about it, because it seems so absurd. And it's the actual theoretical systems that have mapped all that stuff out are much more elegant, refined, complicated, thorough, and detailed than I think our paradigm and culture could even conceive of. That's just based on my experience within these realms, and I don't mean realms like realms, I mean realms as in, it's like kind of a bad word to use. My experience within dealing with this niche, let's say. And that's also my personal view based on that experience. So I never really concerned myself with that concept, and I think it's a surefire way to be pretty miserable, Let's see, do you follow 5-element theory for winter health? Well, to be honest, everyone naturally should follow it. What I mean is, if you're actually healthy, or relatively healthy, your pulses and organs will change according to the season and the element automatically. Like, for example, in springtime, I got some acupuncture from someone who's actually good, and they were like, yep, there's your spring pulse. Because it should be there, because of the thing. You got to understand, five element theory wasn't a bunch of dudes sitting around being like, man, you know what I realized today? Like, in winter, man, it's like cold. And then like the trees are dead. And like things hibernate, dude. And then friends like, dude, that's crazy, you're right. Oh my God. You know what's even crazier, man? I go to bed earlier in the winter. They're like, wait, dude, you know what it is, man? It's like the elements. So like we should do what nature's doing, man. And they're like, dude, yeah, we should write this down. Yeah, dude, this is like Taoism now, man. Yeah, that's crazy. This is really not what was happening. But this is what people imagine. This is how they view Eastern philosophy, which is not the case. We're talking about the highest level functioning human beings that were existing, observing the world. And I don't mean like sitting around getting baked, looking at trees. I mean like, these are people with high level of functioning, in codifying advanced processes that are occurring in the world. So the point is, if you are actually healthy, then your body will automatically do things according to the world anyways. And the other thing we have to understand is people are like, well, five element theory is like water and wood, because like that's what nature has. That's not what five element theory is talking about. It doesn't give a shit about nature or like trees or being a hippie. It's talking about processes that unfold in the world. It's talking about a complicated and profound cosmology and a complicated and profound study of the development of certain processes and how those processes play out over time in the world, inside of a body, outside in the world, in various contexts. And then depending on that context, it will be slightly different thereabouts. So again, mostly people are just hippies trying to be hippies. Like, man, it was going to be like nature and then everything will be cool. And it's no fault. Like, if you go back and read my old videos, it's that same nonsense. But this is where we have to start. And, but ultimately it's not really true and it's not really what it means. So long story short, I do tend to go to bed earlier and rest more, which is easy to do when it gets dark at 5 p.m. And I don't feel like doing anything else late at night because I'm tired. And yeah, if you're healthy, your body will respond and have different pulses. That's just kind of implicit in the world, you know. So yeah, it's just a big misconception people have about anything Eastern. It's like, dude, you're not really hearing what they're saying. You're just projecting what you think about, etc. So yeah, any more questions? Any more questions about other stuff? Yeah. Oh, so you want some free Makuna? All right. So here's the easiest way to get it for free. Go to the website, put it in your shopping cart, and then put in your credit card, and then click checkout. And then after your credit card is charged, you'll get automatically shipped the product. So in that sense, it's totally free, aside from the money you have to pay. But just don't consider that money as like a payment. Consider it as like an energy exchange, because money is ultimately just energy anyways. It's just, energy from point A to point B. So don't look at it like money. Don't look at it like a price. Don't look at it like a cost or an expense. It's an investment in your health. It's an investment in your well-being. So in that sense, it is free. And in that sense, ultimately on the subatomic level, it's mostly empty space anyways, because that's all everything is. So you're basically paying money for empty space. which you can't charge money for empty space, so it's already free. And because of, the oneness theory and the Gaia theory, technically we're all one and we're all one in the same energy. So whatever energy is in the Makuna is technically already in you, because at one point in time at the Big Bang, it was all one and the same thing anyway. So if you think about it, you don't even need to buy the product. You just have to realize that whatever you want, whatever you desire is already inside of you. So then you don't even need to buy it, so it's free. How about that? The funny part is people really say that shit and they're actually serious. It's great. Any sales coming soon? Maybe. So keep an eye on your email for the next, or make sure you're on the email list for one, but maybe in the next week or so, I don't know. There's always promo codes around. Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Let me see here. What do you think of slapping therapy? I don't even know what that is, and it sounds bad, but you do you, I guess, is the word. Prolonged fasting thoughts. Not a fan of fasting. Not a fan of prolonged fasting. It's kind of insulting, I think, to life to do that. But I think if someone is going to fast, they should actually fast, meaning like fast from life, sort of like be like an animal and just kind of go off somewhere and just sit still for that period of time. Not like, oh, I'm doing a fast, so I'm just gonna like still, be on the computer and like do all my work and do my whole life, but not eat. Doesn't really make any sense. It's just another thing people would really like, rather, this is the nuclear bomb or like shotgun approach. It's like, if I just fucking nuke it, then something will happen. Because I don't have time to actually find the research or do the due diligence to find the actual correct causal relationship that might lead to the result that I want in the shortest, quickest, most efficient way. So I'll just do this thing that'll completely blow everything else away. Then I'll at least feel something, so then I'll feel like I accomplished something. So then, on some level, at least it's a success in that standpoint. Even though it might actually make me less healthy, weaken my digestive system. Oh, but science said it was blah, 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 blah. It's like, cool. If you believe that, then you should do it. Because that's your worldview. I don't believe it, so I don't do it. I guess that's the long story short. Let's see what else. Thoughts on float tanks? I like them actually. I find them to be relaxing from time to time. I don't have any grandiose expectations from that because for whatever reason people are having these psychedelic experiences and these massive journeys and shit. Like the place I go to, they have these float journals and float books about people with their experiences, and they're just having this crazy stuff. Maybe I'm just not that type of person, or I'm too dense or whatever, but I've just never had that. Or maybe I do and I just think it's called daydreaming. Like daydreaming is a pretty normal thing, but why you gotta spiritualize daydreaming? I don't get it. So I just kind of go in there and chill and let everything kind of shut down and relax. It's a great way to kind of down-regulate your system. Can be a great antidote to stress and all these things, but it can also be a way to develop more body awareness, which again, people are doing the opposite. Like, oh, I had this amazing journey. It's like, yeah, what about actually getting your mind and your body there, guy? Like, how about that? Because it seems a bit more useful than journeying with eagles and dolphins and, fucking shamans and totem poles and all this complete nonsense. Like, it doesn't strike me as particularly that valuable or healthy, but if you labeling your disease as a spiritual experience is making you feel better, then please, by all means, take your symptomology of disease as a positive thing and make it stronger. That's fine. I don't care. I got no skin in that game. You know, just going to lead to more profits for other people, more profits for profits later on down the line, as they say. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to be heading out soon. I got to get some food before it gets too late. And pretty good turnout on this live stream, to be quite honest. Very surprised. A Saturday night, impromptu, no schedule, no format. Then pretty good. Does pu'er tea have benefits according to TCM? It does. It just depends on if you're talking raw or cooked, or ripe or raw, let's say. Typically, raw would be more cooling. The cooked or ripe would be more warming or neutral. Again, that's what people think that means, and what it actually means is not necessarily the same. People think like, I'm going to drink this and it's warming, so it's going to warm me up. Well, that's not what it means by warming. It doesn't mean your body temperature as measured by a thermometer, although it might have that effect. It's more so talking about how it affects the chi quality in your body via what can be perceived by someone taking your pulse or actual TCM diagnostic methods. It's one thing people don't understand. Like people are like, oh, I eat a lot of raw food, but it's fine because I eat warming foods. Oh, what do you eat? Oh, I put cinnamon and cayenne and ginger in my smoothies. That's not what it means, and it's not really effective, and it's a complete misunderstanding of the terms. And it doesn't have any, it's just sort of not, whatever. Do you ever have hot chocolate drinks? Not anymore, but definitely, 14 years ago or whatever, when I was really into cacao, I was having hot chocolate drinks every day. But honestly, I don't really like chocolate that much anymore, so I don't really eat it that much. I think I really just overdid it back in the day. So I don't really do hot chocolate drinks anymore. I honestly don't really snack, or I mostly just eat meals, and that's kind of it. I don't really consume a lot of other stuff aside from tea and water that isn't just a meal, or perhaps like a snack after a meal to help me get to like a more desirable level of fullness or satiation, which happens. But it's typically not, chocolate. What training or workout did you do today? I think I did some sitting for like, I don't know, half an hour or something. And I was planning to sit for an hour, but to be totally honest, like halfway through, I had to go to the bathroom pretty bad. And basically right at the same time, I had to move my bowels, let's say. And then as soon as I felt that sensation, the perfume was also delivered. So I was like, shit, like, I guess I'm not going to sit for a full hour right now because I have to really go, and this thing got delivered, so that's fine. Because I was trying to take kind of a rest day anyways because I was tired from the previous week and sore, so I didn't really want to pummel myself again. So I just did that, and then went and hiked around for about an hour, walked up a pretty steep incline. Did that a few times just because basically by the top of it, it's like very much getting the heart rate up. Then you keep walking. So it's not kind of like an interval training in a way, just kind of like walking up hills, then walking around and walking up this like really steep hill. So I did that for about an hour, and that was the extent of the exercise for today. Tomorrow, we'll see. Any specific effects from your new teas? Yeah, they are delicious. And if you like pu'er tea or liu-bao tea, they are insanely delicious. So yeah, they're really high quality aged teas that are tasty and have a nice mellow quality to them. Yeah, let's see here. Is that perfume or is it quality oils? Very interesting. Well, basically we have this sandalwood oil that I have for sale on the website, even though I have not posted the picture yet. highly recommend it. It's really good sandalwood oil, and it lasts a really long time on the skin. And yeah, a little bit goes a long way. So I'll probably be selling more oils in the future. I sell some privately, but not yet publicly. I have this agarwood oil that is just off the charts good, like ridiculously good. And there's a couple others that I'm working on as well. So I may eventually sell 3 or 4 different oils. It's just kind of work in progress at this time, because I still need to decide what type of bottle that I want to put it in for ease of use. I am not making them. I'm not an artisan or a distiller of any way, shape, or form. I am just an enthusiast and a stickler for quality. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll just be sharing them because they're good. And I've tried, for the 3 oils that like I may sell, I've tried a few hundred that I just thought were shit that I bought and threw away. So it's a lot of time and money went into filtering through the internet to find actually good stuff and filtering through stuff not on the internet. So yeah, that's kind of what goes into it. Yeah, it is spendy, but at the end of the day, that's part of, it's called research. I mean, if you want to learn, go to school, that's going to be really expensive. You're not going to have anything to show for it, pretty much, other than a degree that might let you work at the mall. Whereas at least with this, I have a tangible skill in something and actual things I can enjoy and share with people. So it seems a bit more valuable, actually. Do you ever sauna or steam room? Not really. Occasionally. Sometimes it sounds good, but I also don't really have access to it. But I may join a gym again, and I think they have a sauna, so I might start doing that. But occasionally I'll go do it because there's places locally, and there's actually a couple places pretty close to where I live that I can do that pretty easily. So it's just the problem with one place is they have multiple soaking pools and a cold plunge and a sauna and a steam, but their water is so chlorinated, it is disgusting. I remember last time I went there, the next day I was training and was just off-gassing chlorine and tasting it in my mouth, and it was pretty disgusting. And not to mention I smelled like it, and it was difficult to wash off. It was just so gross. And it's supposed to be a high-end, health-conscious club, but it's so excessively chlorinated that it just is really not gonna go. I just can't do it. I'll just ask you next time, LOL. Ask me what? Your sandalwood incense is fire, great for sleep. Also, your new agar product is potent and effective. Thanks, I appreciate that. Sandalwood is pretty good, I agree. And that agar product is on point. So if you like that stuff, you're gonna like what's coming next. Just because I got a lot of new products in the works right now. So it's all going. What do you think of Go-To Cola? Honestly, never really got too into it. I feel like it's a little too cold and damp, considering it's like a leafy plant that grows in kind of ponds. So I don't know if it's really that great for mass dosing by itself. I just never really got into it, to be totally honest, so I'm not entirely that familiar with it. Although, I mean, I've read its benefits and heard its stories, but I've just never been attracted to it. When do you use incense versus oil? Incense, if I'm hanging around in my place, or oil if I'm out. Or, sometimes it just depends on a personal preference or mood. Might be in the mood for incense sticks. I might be in the mood to heat some wood. Might be in the mood to just have some smells. It kind of just depends. Totally a personal preference type situation. How can I cure dry eyes? it's a bit of a complicated question, I guess eye drops, and then helping to release the tension around your eyes, but also probably looking at overall liver and gallbladder health, and also decreasing screen time, getting a blue light filter, getting blue blocking glasses. Those are all probably good. Also, probably a lot of it is just liver health, something to look at. So, yeah, I'm gonna probably wrap it up here because it's getting late. I gotta pee, and but I appreciate everyone showing up. Impromptu, it's pretty cool. Good turnout, good questions, good flow. If you missed the beginning when I was kind of just ranting and raving, I'd recommend going back to that because there was some good stuff in there. And you know, appreciate the feedback and you know, all the good questions and people just generally being cool. I will say the vast majority of people that I deal with via YouTube or even on a business level are really pretty cool, nice, genuine, solid, respectable people, which is very nice to do and makes life a bit better. And then the people that are total assholes, I generally just delete their emails or ignore them. To be honest, because there's really no value in benefit and, you know, wasting your time on people that are just inherently hateful or negative. So anyways, hopefully you got some value or benefit out of the Q&A and the rambling, and hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Hopefully eat something good if you have not already, depending on where you are in the world, or if you're about to go to bed. Be sure to take some Agar 35 or some Semda, burn some incense, put on some sandalwood oil. Otherwise, I will see you again on the next live stream or the next video that'll be coming up soon. And yeah, so thanks again and have a good night.